Now it is clear from what has been said that no matter how much evil is multiplied, it can never consume all the good. For it must always remain the subject of evil if evil remains. But the subject of evil is good, so it always remains good. But when evil happens, I intend it to infinity, but good is always diminished by the intensity of evil. It seems that good is infinitely diminished by evil, but the good which can be diminished by evil must be finite, for infinite good is not capable of evil, as was shown in the first book. It seems, therefore, that sometimes the whole of good is taken away by evil. For if something is taken away infinitely from the finite, it must sometimes be consumed by taking away. But it cannot be said, as some say, that the subsequent oblation, made according to the same proportion as the former, proceeding ad infinitum, cannot consume the good, as happens in continuous division. So if you proceed ad infinitum, there will always remain something still to be divided. But still, in this process of division, what is subsequently subtracted must always be less in quantity. For half of the whole, which was previously subtracted, is greater in absolute quantity than half of the half, although the proportion remains the same. But this cannot possibly happen in the diminution in which good is diminished by evil. For the more good is diminished by evil, the weaker it will be, and thus it may be diminished more by a second evil. And again the following evil happens to be equal. It must therefore be said differently. For it is clear from the foregoing that evil completely removes the good to which it is opposed, just as blindness removes sight. But it is necessary that the good which is the subject of evil remain. This indeed, inasmuch as it is a subject, has the aspect of good, inasmuch as it is the power to the act of good which is deprived by evil. Therefore, the less there is in the potential for that good, the less the good will be. Now the subject becomes less capable of form, not even by the mere subtraction of any part of the subject, nor by the fact that any part of the power is withdrawn, but by the fact that the power is hindered by the contrary act from being able to go forth into the act of form. Just as the subject is so much less potentially cold, the more heat is increased in it. Therefore, good is diminished by evil, rather by adding its opposite than by subtracting something from the good, which also agrees with what has been said about evil. For we have said that evil occurs apart from the agent's intention, that he always intends some good, to which follows the exclusion of another good which is its opposite. The more, therefore, that good which is directed towards that which evil follows in spite of the agent's intention, the more it is multiplied, so much the more does the power to the opposite good diminish. But this diminution of good by evil cannot proceed ad infinitum in natural things, for all natural forms and virtues are finite and reach a certain limit beyond which they cannot be extended. It is therefore impossible for any contrary form, nor the power of the contrary agent, to be infinitely increased, so that from this there follows an infinite diminution of good by evil. But in morals this diminution may proceed to infinity, for the understanding and the will have no limits in their actions. For the intellect can proceed ad infinitum by understanding. Hence the mathematical species of numbers and figures are said to be infinite. And in the same way the will proceeds ad infinitum in willing. For he who wills to commit theft can will to commit it again, and so ad infinitum. But the more the will tends towards improper ends, the more difficult it is to return to the proper and due end, which is evident in those in whom the habit of vice has already been induced through the habit of sinning. Therefore the good of natural aptitude can be diminished indefinitely by the evil of morals. However, It is never completely removed, but always accompanies the remaining nature.